Here's the last part of question 5. It says, for which values of x is the inverse less than minus 1? Well, here's their solution here. You actually don't need this part. The inverse was x equals 3 to the y. Well, instead of y, put in a minus 1. And they're interested not when x equals 3 to the minus 1, but when it's less than 3 to the minus 1. So the answer is x is less than 1 over 3. So those are the values of x where it'll be less than negative 1. One of it's x is less than negative 3. But you see this is the function, f of x. The inverse, this one goes off towards the negative x-axis. This one must go off to the negative y and not quite touch it, never getting to x equals 0. So that's why the answer is x is less than 1/3, but greater than 0. That's a little bit tricky, but all you have to do is just get the inverse, and instead of y, put in the negative 1 they gave you, and you're looking at the answer. It's x is less than 1/3, but you got to know it must be. There's the inverse is going to look like that. It's cutting through 1. So it must be greater than 0 as well. Okay. Now they tell you that what if PQ, look at this, PQ and QR and SR, if PQ and RS are parallel and QR isn't parallel to the x-axis, how can you figure out what S is? Well, here's a clever little thing here. You know that P is equal to 1, and all you have to do is put in 0 for y. And you solve, and you get x is 1. You also know it's the inverse here. The inverse lies right there. But there, when y is 0 in the line, x is 1. So you know what p is. So that's 1 mark. Well, what does q have to be? Well, if it's parallel, then if I go straight up, if I take a 1 and put it into the exponential thing, I should get the y coordinate. Hey, and I do. Q must be 1 and 3, because when x is 1, y is 3. Now look at this game. We're going to go over to R now. We know that the y coordinate is 3, so the y coordinate must be 3 here. So all we do is take the line minus x plus 1 and put 3 in for y. Okay, you're going to get 2 minus x equals 2, so x equals minus 2. Well, now we've got R. So we went from P to Q to R. Now we can figure out S. If it's parallel, it's got to have the same x coordinate. So all we do is take minus 2 and put it into the exponential equation, 3 to the minus 2. Hey, S must be minus 2 and 1 over 9. That's a little bit of a clever thing, but that's just the way it works. Okay, I mean, you have to go from P to Q to R to S. And by them saying it's parallel, that's kind of the hint in giving you the answers. Okay, the last question. Can you describe a translation of f of x, which is just y equals 3 to the x, to this, 3 times 3 to the x minus 2. Well, there's a bit of a trick here. You have to change this 3. That's 3 to the 1, isn't it? And 3 to the 1 times 3 to the x is 3 to the x plus 1. And now you should be able to read off your answers. If you see this minus 2, that means the translation is it's moved 2 units down, and you'd get a mark. And here, when you add 1, you go the opposite direction in the x direction as you think. It means you go 1 unit to the left. That's a little tricky, but that's how you do that one.